Every time you think I did the dishes last time they should do them, you're keeping score. Every time you count who initiated sex this week, you're keeping score. Every time you track who planned the last date, you're keeping score. And scorekeeping is the fastest way to kill a relationship. Here's why the 50-50 rule is a trap and what to do instead. Let me show you what the research actually says. Most people think fairness in relationships means keeping everything equal. You do the dishes, I'll do the laundry. You paid for dinner, I'll pay next time. You initiated last night, my turn tonight. But here's what psychology reveals. That mental ledger you're keeping is destroying your relationship without you realizing it. And the math behind why it fails is brutal. First, let's talk about why we keep score in the first place. Modern culture has drilled equality into us, which is good for most things. But somewhere along the way, we took equal partnership and twisted it into equal contribution at all times. Now we're obsessed with fairness. We track who does what. We monitor who gives more. We count acts of service like currency. Research shows this comes from a protection mechanism. We don't want to be taken advantage of. We don't want to end up doing everything while our partner coasts. So we keep tabs thinking it prevents resentment. But here's the twisted truth. Scorekeeping creates the exact resentment it's trying to prevent. Studies on over 7,000 couples tracked for 13 years found something shocking. When one partner's exchange orientation increased, relationship satisfaction decreased. Not just a little, significantly. And it lasted. Even 2 years later, couples were still less satisfied if someone had been caught up in scorekeeping earlier. The act of keeping track damages the relationship long term. It didn't even matter if both partners kept score equally. If even one person was tallying contributions, both people became unhappy. This is exchange orientation disguised as fairness. Here's why 50-50 fails and the math is brutal. Reason 1, it's impossible to measure. How do you quantify emotional labor? Is earning money equal to childcare? Is cooking equal to household management? Who decides what counts as contribution? You think you're being objective, but scorekeeping is completely subjective. You remember what you do in vivid detail. You barely notice what they do because it's not your effort. Studies confirm both partners in relationships think they contribute 60 to 70%. Both, which is mathematically impossible. But both feel underappreciated because of cognitive bias. You overestimate your own contribution. You underestimate theirs, so you're both keeping score, both feeling shortchanged, both building resentment over phantom debts that don't even exist. The scoreboard is a lie you're both believing. Reason 2, it creates transactional love. When you operate on I did X, so you owe me Y, love becomes currency exchange. Everything gets negotiated. Everything has a price. I cooked dinner, so you should give me affection. I was emotionally supportive, so you should do this chore. Research shows this kills spontaneity. It kills generosity because now nothing is freely given. Everything is owed, everything is tracked, and intimacy dies when your relationship feels like a business contract. Nobody wants to have sex with their accountant. You're turning your partner into a debtor instead of a lover. Reason 3, life isn't 50-50. Someone will get sick. Someone will lose their job. Someone will be dealing with grief or stress or mental health struggles. During those seasons, rigid 50-50 can't accommodate reality. When your partner is drowning, demanding they maintain their 50% isn't fair. It's cruel. Real partnership means carrying more weight when they can't, and trusting they'll do the same for you when life hits you. Studies on relationship satisfaction show couples who can't adapt to changing needs fail faster because they're so busy protecting their percentage that they forget they're supposed to be a team. Fairness policed through bookkeeping kills the warmth that makes relationships worthwhile. Reason 4, it's a race to minimum. When both partners aim for exactly 50%, both give the bare minimum. Nobody goes above and beyond because why would you? That's not fair. That's doing more than your share. So the relationship becomes good enough instead of great. Both people show up with just enough effort, just enough attention, just enough care, and over time the relationship stagnates. Because growth requires someone being willing to give more than required. But scorekeepers never do. They're too busy making sure they don't give more than they get. You end up competing for who can contribute less while looking fair. So what actually works? Here's what psychology and successful couples reveal. The 100-100 principle. Both partners give 100%, not to prove fairness. Not because you're tracking, but because you want to. You show up fully because you love this person, because you're building something together, not because it's your turn or because you owe them. Research shows this mindset predicts relationship success. When you stop keeping score and start giving freely, Satisfaction increases for both partners. You contribute based on capacity, not equality. Some days you have more to give, some days they do. And that's okay because you're not competing, you're partnering. Trust that over time, it balances without ever having to count. The seasons principle. Sometimes you carry them. 80-20. They're struggling with work stress, family crisis, health issues. You step up. You take on more. You don't resent it because you know seasons change. Sometimes they carry you. 280. You're the one falling apart. They hold it down. They don't weaponize it later because that's what partnership is. Over years, it balances, but never at the same time. And if you're keeping score, you miss this completely. You demand fairness in a moment when they desperately need grace. Studies tracking long-term couples show those who embrace seasonal imbalance stay together longer and report higher satisfaction because they understand that rigid equality kills flexibility. And relationships require flexibility to survive real life. Stop expecting identical contribution and start expecting mutual commitment. The strengths-based division. Don't assign tasks equally. Assign them strategically. One person loves cooking. The other handles finances better. One is naturally better at emotional processing. The other excels at logistics. Play to strengths instead of splitting everything down the middle. Value different types of contribution equally. Appreciate, don't compare. Research on successful partnerships shows couples who complement each other instead of mirroring each other report less conflict over household labor because they're not fighting over who does what. They're flowing into what they each do best. Different doesn't mean unequal. It means strategic. The generosity mindset. Give without tracking. Do things because you want to, not because it's your turn. Acts of service without expectation of return. When you see something that needs doing, you do it. You don't calculate whether it's fair. You don't think, but I did this last time. You just handle it because that's what people who love each other do. Studies show that communal relationships where partners give without keeping tabs vastly outperform exchange relationships where everything is monitored. Communal couples report higher intimacy, more satisfaction, better conflict resolution, because generosity breeds generosity. When you give freely, they give freely. But when you give transactionally, everything becomes a negotiation. Love isn't arithmetic. Stop treating it like math class. The communication shift. This is critical. Stop saying you owe me because I did X. Start saying I need help with this. Stop saying I always do this. Start saying I'm exhausted. Can you handle this? Move from accusation to vulnerability. From keeping score to building team. Research confirms that couples who frame requests as needs instead of debts experience less defensiveness from their partner because nobody wants to be told they're failing at fairness. It's the difference between you're not pulling your weight and I'm overwhelmed and need support. One creates conflict, the other creates connection. Your partner isn't your opponent. Stop treating them like one. Now here's where we need to talk about red flags. If your partner refuses to help unless you've earned it, that's a problem. If everything is transactional, including sex for chores, that's manipulation. If they weaponize scorekeeping against you, that's control. I did this, so you must do that ultimatums. No generosity or grace during your hard seasons. These aren't signs of someone who values fairness. These are signs of someone who uses fairness as a weapon. Healthy looks like we're both trying to give our best. Toxic looks like you owe me because I did X. Studies on controlling behavior in relationships show that partners who enforce rigid transactional rules often escalate to other forms of control. If bringing up imbalance leads to defensiveness every time, pay attention. If they keep score but you don't, pay attention. If your contribution is never enough no matter how much you do, pay attention. If scorekeeping is their control tactic, you're not in a partnership, you're in a hostage negotiation. That's not about fairness, that's about power. So how do you actually stop keeping score? Practical steps. First, acknowledge you're doing it. Awareness is everything. Catch yourself when you think I did this last time. Pause, reframe. Ask yourself, are they being lazy or are they struggling? Context matters. Express needs directly. I need help with dishes. Not I always do the dishes. The first is a request. The second is an accusation. Appreciate freely. Notice what they do instead of what they don't. Give without tracking. Do nice things without expecting immediate return. Remember seasons. You'll need grace someday too. Focus on partnership. How can we make this work together instead of you should do more? Stop auditing. Start collaborating. Scorekeepers end up single. They destroy their relationships by demanding perfect fairness at all times, by refusing to give more when their partner needs it, by turning love into a ledger. Meanwhile, partners end up happy. They give generously, they receive gratefully, they adapt to life's seasons, they trust the balance without tracking it, and their relationships thrive because they're built on love, not accounting. You have a choice right now. Keep that mental scorecard and watch resentment slowly poison everything good you've built. Or let it go. Give freely. Trust your partner. Communicate needs without blame. Appreciate contributions without comparing. And build something that actually lasts. The couples who figure this out stop fighting over who does more. They stop feeling underappreciated. They stop the constant low-level resentment that comes from tracking everything. And they start experiencing what relationships are actually supposed to feel like: generous, supportive, flexible, strong. If this hit home, drop a comment about whether you've been keeping score and how you're going to stop. And hit subscribe because we're diving deeper into the psychology that protects and strengthens relationships.